As we all know, drawing anime-styled characters can be pretty difficult, whether it's trying to draw the emotions or trying to capture the anatomy of the characters. All of this can be pretty challenging and can take a lot of practice, which is why in this video we're going to break down how I make my anime-styled character using Procreate and using my iPad. I've been doing this for around 5 years with the digital equipment. So I'm gonna try showing you guys a lot of interesting tips and tricks to get started. So the first thing you're going to do now is create a new canvas. We're going to use the 180p resolution. I would recommend to use higher resolution like 4K, but for the sake of the tutorial we're just gonna use 180p. Now you can go to the inking section and select the syrup brush. The size of the brush should be pretty thin, and we're going to start by making a circle. And in order to draw the jaw here, we're going to make a curved line and we're going to connect it to the other side. For the ear, you can just draw this shape here, and the skull should be extending a little bit, and we can draw another curved line that will define where the eyes are. For this character, we're going to make the nose look like this because the character will be slightly looking up, and for the eyes, we're going to do this almond shape. You can use a reference and practice a lot. That really helps. The mouth is usually very simple to draw, but the hair is way more detailed. We're gonna make a point here and connect every hair to this part. We're gonna use a lot of curves. The most important thing if you want your lines to look good is to have sharp, confident lines and keep it simple. Now for this part we're going to do the same thing. We need to use very simple shapes if you want the anatomy to look good. Here for the torso you can use a rectangle or an hexagon like this. For the shoulders we're going to use circles, and again we're going to connect the lines like this. You can use reference. Here for the fur we're going to do pretty much the same thing as we did for the hair, and again with all these lines you need to be confident, you need to be simple. Forget about the details right now, the details are not important. We're gonna add the details later. For the sword, if you want to make straight lines like this, you need to hold like this and it will make a straight line. So again, the most important thing about the sketch is to make sure you are keeping it simple. We don't need to go too much in details. We're going to put this layer in low opacity and make a new layer for the line art. Again, the line art, it's even more important to have shapes that look confident. We don't want to do a lot of little lines. This is not going to look good. It has to look clean. We're also going to use the syrup brush for this line art because this is the brush that looks the most clean. Also, if you press harder, the brush size will increase. The strong, sharp lines will give better emotions, so the size should be bigger towards the eyes. The thick lines are really important if you want to highlight the emotions. This could be used for angry characters or sad characters. This will really help to emphasize the emotions. Now that we're making the line art, we can add a lot more details, but again we have to keep this on a certain level of simplicity because this is still an anime style and we're going to have to fill it with some colors, so putting too much details will make it actually harder. Again, you can also flip your drawing if you want it to look better, so you can see the imperfections, but yeah, keep it simple. Also, most of the time on anime characters there will be a lot of clothing, so the technique I recommend to use is using a lot of diagonal lines like this that connect with the folds, which will make the clothing look a little bit more realistic. After the line art, it's time to do the colors. The colors are going to be very desaturated and dark, but for the skin we need something more saturated that will contrast with the dark colors. Right now we're just going to fill in the place like this. We're going to add the shadows later, but I'm going to show you the technique to add the shadows in a very simple way instead of adding them manually. If you guys ever do a character design like this of a warrior, I recommend using a lot of contrasted colors, desaturated colors most of the time. To make sure there are no white pixels left, I like to make a silhouette of the character and blur it behind and remove the excess here, and now it looks pretty good. Now for the shadows, we're going to make another layer of the character and we're going to make it blue a little bit. We don't want to just put a darker color because it won't look very good since we want to recreate this blue atmosphere, and this is why we're going to use the curve to make it more blue, and we're going to make it darker later. Now we're going to use the select tool and we're going to try to make these lines. Normally we would just use the brush and make the lines with the color of the shadows, but I think using this technique will not only save time, but it will make more accurate and better looking shadows. Now when you're making the shadows, make sure you know where the light source is coming from. My light source is coming from top left. You have to think as your character like a 3D object with volume. So this is what I'm trying to do here. The shadows should be, most of the time they should be down because the light is coming from the top. Now again, we're going to use the curves to make sure the shadows are darker. And now we're going to do a step I like a lot. It's the compositing. We're going to start by making another layer in multiply mode and make it darker. And we're going to use the eraser to put the light. And then we're going to do another layer like this to do the lightning effect, which is going to be a color dodge layer, which is going to make that lightning effect. Be careful when you use color dodge. Instead of using the eraser, you should use a dark brush. Now, because the shadows were blue, we're going to make a blue background. We're going to go to elements and we're going to use the cloud brush to make this effect. We're going to make another layer, which is going to be darker to create this effect. And we're going to use the blur to make the clouds look like they're moving. And we're going to adjust the colors like this with the curves again. For this lighting effect, we're going to make a white outline and we're going to blur it, which is going to simulate an illusion of light. And we're going to use the curve to make them look good. And then we're going to add another layer of color dodge for the light effect, which is going to make it look better. Again, when you use color dodge, make sure the parts that have no light are dark. You always want to use black. This will look better and this will create the light effect. For the snow, we're also going to use the color dodge effect and the blur, the motion blur, which is going to make it look like there is a snowstorm. Now we finally finished this drawing, so this is how I do it on Procreate. If you got value from this content or enjoyed the video, you can go ahead and subscribe or follow me on social media. Thank you for watching.